I always feel like somebody's watching me. Who's watching? Who in the bleep is out there watching?
I know they're out there watching. They're watching and writing. Who the bleep is out there watching me? Watching and writing and watching and writing. Watching and writing. Watching and writing. I just want to stay the bleep inside it. Well, listen to 1 minute and 43 seconds. I'll tell you what, you go out and check the mailbox and I'll stay right here and listen to 1 minute and 43 seconds. How about that?
No, I'm not going to the mailbox. I won't go. You can't make me. Not going to the mailbox.
Watching and writing and watching and writing. Watching and writing. Watching and writing.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You look beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
What's going on?
Not much. We just had dinner and we just watched a couple episodes of Inside Job on Netflix. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
I don't know. It's funny, but it's like dumb funny.
I love that kind of funny.
Oh, good. It's like it's an adult cartoon show. I don't know if you've ever, did I ever tell you about like F is for Family and stuff like that from, what's his name, Bill Burr?
Is that a comedy special of his?
No, it's a cartoon, like an adult cartoon show that he created.
Oh, I'll have to ask Wes if he's heard of it because he loves Bill Burr, so I can see him.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one we also really love, but we also like to watch adult cartoons and Inside Job is one of them. It's just,
Nice.
it's like highlighting all of like the conspiracy like theories out there and like as if it's like real. So it's like it's hilarious. It's like dumb but like funny.
I love it. And it's on Netflix or what?
Netflix, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they just came out with the season 2, so we're just starting on that right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you been following what's going on with Kanye West?
No, I have not.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't even touch that then because it's just it's unbelievable.
Really? Well, I kind of want to know.
Yeah. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited that this is happening.
I know, me too.
Thank you guys for making the time.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So, Joanne, this is Elaine. Elaine, this is Joanne.
Hi.
Joanne.
Welcome to the show, Elaine and Joanne. I know I've done episodes with both of you, so it's really cool to bring these two worlds together. Have you guys listened to each other's episodes? I won't get offended if you haven't.
I have. I watched. I watched. I listened.
I knew there was video.
Oh, that was perfect. I listened to the one. It was the guy who might have stole platinum. I forgot what his name was.
Oh yeah,
Dale Kerstetter.
Yeah. That one.
So what do you think? Did he do it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Did it.
We don't think so either, which you probably know from listening.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
How about you, Elaine? You listen to any of Joanne and my episodes?
I have. Yes.
She's pulling it up right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me check which ones.
Just kidding.
No, I don't remember which cases specifically. But I remember we just talked about, because there was one where there was some sort of surveillance video. You did a reaction to the surveillance video. But I don't remember which case that was.
No, you did this last time. You said we did Elisa Lam
did.
together, and I gave you a bunch. I gave you a bunch of shit because I'm like, just because she's Asian doesn't mean I did the Asian girl case for the. I'm sorry.
I really thought it was her. And then, no, Megan told me it was a different one, but now I can't remember which one it was.
Well, nevertheless, I'm glad you're both here. And
Yes.
so I saved this case to talk to you guys because I thought, first of all, you guys would bring a great perspective. And I know you guys have been watching The Watcher.
Yes.
And so today I'm going to be telling you the true story behind The Watcher, because as you know, so for those listening, there's a show on Netflix called The Watcher. It's like 7 episodes, and it outlines, it's based on true events. And so I'm going to tell you the true events as they went down in real life. But so Elaine, did you finish it yet?
Yes, I finished it, and I'm very excited for this because that story is bonkers. So I'm very interested to hear how much of it they drew from the actual story and how much of it was some creative liberty.
Yeah. And Joanne, you watched part of it. Is that right?
Yeah, I watched part of it. I couldn't finish it. I'm a wuss. Because that was too much for me.
It can be, it's creepy, and it's creepy in real life too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you start watching it and then it's like, oh, this is based on true events. It's like, what? Worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't finish it. I know. Chet is probably gonna, want to finish it. So I was telling him that we're gonna be doing this episode of like the real Watcher, and he was like, oh, that's gonna be interesting. So yeah, but I am very interested in like being here and like hearing the true, like, and being a part of the conversation of like the real one. So yeah, but I just couldn't finish watching the old or the one on Netflix.
All right. Well, you'll have to tell us if both of you guys can weigh in on if this is creepier than the Netflix or not. But
Hey, Megan, have you watched?
will say,
I did watch it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go ahead, Elaine.
I will say after the first episode, I was a little creeped out by my own house and worried. Like, I don't want to give any spoilers ahead of time. But I was a little creeped out just in general.
Yeah, me too. For sure.
Well, that's a good segue into this because warning to people listening, there will be spoilers. Because I'll probably mention, oh, they did it in the show like this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know what? It's been out for a while now. So if you haven't seen it yet and you plan to, then this is not the episode for you.
Fair enough.
Okay, so the story takes place in Westfield, New Jersey, which is a fairly affluent neighborhood or town. I forget how far, it's not far from New York, not like super far. But it's, I think like 30,000 people. And the story centers around Derek and Maria Broaddus, who are a husband and wife, and they have 3 kids together. This is the story of what happened to them when they purchased a 6-bedroom house at 657 Boulevard. I don't know why he's laughing.
I'm sorry to laugh. It's just every time my husband and I watched the show, we were like, what kind of address is 657 Boulevard? Like, that's just the name of the street is Boulevard.
Oh, I never thought of that.
That was real. So that's a real address.
It's a real address. Yeah. 657
Like,
Boulevard.
I live at 246 Street.
Well, that's a good point, actually. And I don't know why I never paid attention to that. Probably because I was just so focused on the creepiness of it. But you're right. That is weird.
Probably. But for some reason, I just could not hear that address without just every single time. I was just, what kind of address is that? Like, go ahead.
Yeah, it like feels made up because like when I was watching like that first like few episodes, I was like, is that real? And then I started Googling it and I was like, oh my God, it's real.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's most definitely real. And so this house is $1.3 million, or at least it was when they bought it. Okay. Now it was just a few blocks from Maria's childhood home.
Oh.
And Derek, her husband, he was from Maine, but he moved his way up at an insurance company in New York. So he was doing pretty well. And so they bought this house as a dream. Well, not as a dream. It fulfilled their dream. You know what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So they move in. It's June of 2014. What was I going to say? Yeah, June of 2014. Okay, they hadn't actually moved in yet, but they were in the process. They had purchased the home and they were planning to move in. Okay, so Derek is there one day and he's painting, okay, or working on painting something there. And he decides to run to the mail to check the mail. He pulled out some bills. And then there was one thing that stood out. It was a white card-shaped envelope. And it was addressed to, quote, the new owner. And inside it was a typed note. And it read, "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched the house in the 1960s. It's now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out." Yeah. So he's probably reading this letter like, what the is this? The letter also said, "I see that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Tisk, 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 bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy."
That was in the first letter?
I believe so, if I'm reading this right. You know what's kind of annoying is that when I tried to search out the letters themselves, I found all these articles that just like highlighted what was said in the letters and they quoted it. But it'd be like, it would say like the first few lines and then it would say like, the writer went on to say, and then it would like, it's like, can I just see the text?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it exists somewhere, but let's see. So it also said, "You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted." And then they write, "Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me." And then it finished by saying, "Who am I? There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I'm in one. Look at all the windows you see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one." The letter concluded with a suggestion that this message would not be the last. Oh, that's not part of the letter. "Welcome, friends, welcome. Let the party begin." And then it was signed by a signature typed in cursive font, "The Watcher." So, that's creepy. The first thing I found this up here, they did. So earlier in the week, when they had research, before Derek saw this letter earlier that week, Derek and Maria had met some of their neighbors and they took their kids along. And their kids were 10, 8, and 5. And they were kind of playing with some of the other kids in the neighborhood. So the kids have been out But whoever the letter writer was obviously knew they had kids. So that was one thing they noticed about it. And there was no return address on the envelope. So obviously when he got this letter, Derek freaked out. He like rushed to turn off all the lights inside the house, and then he called the police. And this is one of my favorite parts. An officer comes out to the house from the Westfield Police Department, takes a look at the letter, and then says, quote, "What the f*** is this?" I know. I love that. I love that. So then he asks him, "Do you have any enemies, or, what do you know what this is about?" And obviously Derek had no idea who it would be. He's at the house alone, so he rushes back to their other house in the same in Westfield to his wife and kids, and they write a letter to the people that sold them the house. And that was a couple by the name of John and Andrea Woods. So they basically wrote about this and asked them if they knew anything about who this person might be, because the person in the letter obviously said they've been watching the house and like for generations or whatever. So they get back. Andrea Woods gets back the next day and said they actually had received a letter that they threw out. But they had said that the letter they got was more strange, they put it, than threatening, because it said stuff along the lines of, "Thank you for watching the house for all these years." And they thought it was real bizarre, but they didn't disclose it to the Broadduses, and they didn't think of anything of it, because that had been the only thing they had received in 23 years of living at the house.
What?
That is odd. So I wonder if the previous owners did not mess with the house too much, but now these new owners are bringing in contractors, and that's why the letters are more threatening, because
who would be threatened by contract work, for God's sake?
Well, it's someone who just really loves old houses and doesn't want to ruin the integrity of the old house.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair, I guess. This was the day after they received the letter, and then they got the note back from Andrea. The Woodses, who sold them the house, went with them to the police station. And the police, the detective, his name was Leonard Lugo. He told them not to tell anyone about the letters, including new neighbors, because anybody could be a suspect, right?
Oh,
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were obviously really creeped out by this. And so they spent the next couple weeks pretty, on edge. I think Derek was supposed to go on a work trip and he canceled it. He got creeped out. And I think the scene was in the show. Derek was giving a tour of their new house, like the renovations they had been doing. He gave this tour to a couple on the block, and I don't think they identify this couple, but one of the wife made a comment like, "It'll be nice to have some young blood in the neighborhood."
Oh.
And so Derek kind of looked at her like, yeah, that crazy coincidence. I mean, it is a phrase people use. I've never liked it.
Yeah, me neither.
It's a weird phrase, but it is a pretty common one.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
I think that's probably just coincidence.
Yeah, it very well could be. It also reminds me of, not to stray too far from the actual, but like in the show itself, that one neighbor, the older lady is like, "We're watching you," and Derek was like, "Oh, are you now?"
Yeah.
But it's like, kind of like when you're paranoid, when something like this happens, you're kind of focused on all of these things. So it's kind of like, but that's, I think, is what makes the show so interesting, because it's like, oh, anybody can be a suspect. And we're kind of like in the mindset of the family, that's like going through that.
Mm-hmm.
you took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say, can you imagine like going through something like this and then you're analyzing every single thing? Like, could this be related or not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you absolutely would be.
All right. So 2 weeks after the first letter arrived, Maria this time stopped by the house to check out some paint samples. And while she was there, of course, she checked the mail. Right away, she recognized that thick black lettering on the card and called the police right away. So this new letter said, "Welcome again to your new home at 657 Boulevard. The workers have been busy and I have been watching you unload carfuls of your personal belongings. The dumpster is a nice touch. Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time, they will."
Ugh.
Oh boy.
And then it goes, "I am pleased to know your names now and the names of the young blood you have brought to me. You certainly say their names often." And then they reference, basically they had a back porch on this house or something. And they reference one of the kids, like one of their young children, being on the porch. And she was like painting on an easel or something. And they write, "Is she the artist in the family?"
Oh my God.
Oh.
I know, I just got chills, right? But the thing about this that was creepy is, besides the fact it's just creepy because it's creepy, the positioning of the porch was said to be covered like by trees, and it wasn't easily seen except for a few like houses within the neighborhood.
Oh.
Or somebody would have had to be in the backyard to see that. So unsettling all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rest of the letter reads as follows. 657 Boulevard is anxious for you to move in. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is very far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream.
Oh my God.
I remember that in the show. Oh my God.
Yeah. Will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better.
Oh my God.
All of the windows and doors in 657 Boulevard allow me to watch you and track you as you move through the house. Who am I? I am the Watcher and have been in control of 657 Boulevard for the better part of 2 decades now. The Woods family turned it over to you. It was their time to move on and kindly sold it when I asked them to. I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession. And now you two are. And now you are too. And they incorrectly address them as the Broaddus family when they're actually the Broaddus family. So that's a typo.
Oh.
Welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard. And now it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving in day. You know I will be watching.
What's up with this whole greed thing? Like, I never understood that. I don't know, like, maybe you guys have a better, I don't know, insight than I do on the whole greed thing because you guys finished watching it. But I've always, like, that always stood out to me. Why the whole greed?
Well, my answer isn't from the TV show, but this is a speculation that the person writing these letters could have been somebody who either wanted the house and couldn't afford it.
Oh.
Like, or maybe the Broaddus family outbid them. They had a higher offer. And so that kind of irritated
Oh, sure.
this person. Or they didn't put an offer on the house, period, but they were like mad because they couldn't afford a house like that. And that is a common theme in the letters. This person seems to be have like some sort of vendetta against wealthy people. So that's my response to that. But that's a theory.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I had a similar impression that since it's a 6-bedroom house, it's worth over $1 million. You have to be fairly wealthy to be able to afford that, and maybe they just, whoever this watcher is, perceives that as being greedy. Like, why you have 3 children? Why do you need a 6-bedroom house? You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I never thought of that. Because why not?
Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But
Me neither. That doesn't make me greedy.
no, I don't think it's greedy to have a big house.
Right.
It's just you want more space.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know.
Well, the house is on the Boulevard, which it's what they call it, Elaine, the Boulevard.
The Boulevard.
So the houses on the Boulevard were said to be very desirable. And that if you lived on the Boulevard, you, quote, made it. As in, like, you were pretty wealthy if you could afford a home on the Boulevard. And 657 Boulevard used to be apparently one of the grandest homes on the block. And so to go on to what I just mentioned, could this have been somebody that felt, what's the word? Scorned because they bid on the house, but the Broadduses bid higher. So they looked into that. But it turns out actually the people that had made offers on the house, one of them had to back out of their offer after they received a medical diagnosis, like a bad medical diagnosis, which it doesn't specify what. Another one that put an offer in actually decided on a different home.
Oh.
Before any of this. So that theory kind of fell to the wayside pretty quick. But still, it could have been somebody that was just it generally held a grudge because they couldn't afford, the house.
Fair. Yeah.
They are trying to make friends with their neighbors, but at the same time, they're incredibly paranoid. So they go to a barbecue across the street, and it was like, the purpose of the barbecue was to welcome them to the neighborhood along with another new owner on the block.
That's nice.
Yeah. And Derek was saying how people must have thought that they were crazy because they kept yelling at their kids to stay within sight and they had to stay close. Yeah. What are you giggling about?
No, I mean, I could just imagine like being there and they they're paranoid. They're going to this barbecue that was being held for them because they're like neighbors. It's just like they're yelling at their kids to like be in sight. It's just kind of like a funny image.
Funny image, yeah. Right, so
that is interesting too, because in the show that they did not get along with any of the neighbors. The neighbors did not like them from the start.
Yeah.
Oh, wait until the neighbors. You're gonna love this. Okay. And you'll see the comparisons, I think. Joanne, how far did you get? Do you remember? Like, how many episodes? I'm just curious.
Probably 4. Yeah.
Okay. So you probably got a good sense, at least, of how the neighbors work. And they're kind of based on real people. So at this barbecue, Derek was chatting with a guy by the name of John Schmidt.
Another John?
Who else was John?
Sounds like a real name.
Who?
The previous owner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Well, this John lives 2 doors down from 657 Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up telling Derek about the Langfords. And the Langfords lived between them. So that was the house in between John and Derek and Maria. Mm-hmm. Peggy Langford was in her 90s, and she had several adult children in their 60s who lived with her. And John said the family was odd but harmless. And there was one of these kids, not kids, adult children, by the name of Michael. He didn't have a job, and he was just kind of an odd guy. Now, Derek was intrigued by this because he realized that the Langford house was right next to, they could easily see into the backyard, and therefore they could see the porch. So they had a view of, yeah. And they had lived there for a long time. And if you remember, the letters referenced, oh, my father's job was to watch it in the 60s and my grandfather watched it in the 20s, whatever. They also were able to make the connection, I guess. They did some digging, and Richard Langford had died 12 years ago at this point. And the letter writer said that they had the job of watching the house for the better part of 2 decades.
Oh.
So he's kind of drawing some conclusions from this. So they go to the police. They go to the detective they've been working with. And the detective's like, we already talked to them. And he denied, the guy, Michael, he denied knowing anything about it. And at first, they thought, okay, well, he denied it. Even the investigator was like, he denied it, but he might have done it, right? So they thought this is going to be the end of that. We scared him. He's not going to write anything else, whatever. This caused a lot of trauma for the family. They fought. They started fighting a lot. He became obsessed with trying to figure out who was doing this. He set up webcams, and he would stay in the house with all the lights off and crouch and watch to see if he could catch somebody in the act. Yeah, he was really into what this could be about. So they ended up hiring a bunch of people to try to help too. They got a private investigator. They got an FBI agent, and then they got 2 FBI agents. So this guy made some good money because he's hiring all these agents and private investigators and whatever.
Yeah, apparently.
And one of these guys did an analysis. I'm like, what is it? An analyzation? What is that word? Analysis of the letters. And they thought it might be somebody older because of certain literary. What is the word? What is PANACHD, Elaine? She's an English teacher.
Panache.
It said that they had a literary panache. Yeah,
it's like a strength, like a flair.
Oh, okay. But also the envelope was addressed
to... It might be panache. I think you can go either way.
You know what? That sounds like a dessert. But that's a ganache.
That's ganache.
Yeah.
Panache. Yeah. I think it could be either way.
Either way, they thought this guy might have been a little older because they addressed on the envelope M/M Broaddus. And apparently that was an older way of doing that. I don't know.
Well, okay, yes, but also if this person has been watching their dad do that and then their grandfather do that, then wouldn't they just be copying that same style?
Probably.
Oh, that's a good point.
So then it's just kind of it's not really this person's style. It's really just what's passed down, quote unquote.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a great point.
That's how the letters are written.
Right.
Yeah, and so they also theorized, what we were talking about before, that this person seemed to be angry by the people moving into the town. Because one of the pieces of the letter said, "Are you one of those Hoboken transplants who are ruining Westfield?" And then they had a problem with Broaddus's doing renovations. They write, "The house is crying from all the pain it is going through. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You are stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The 1960s were a good time for 657 Boulevard when I ran from room to room imagining the life with the rich occupants there. The house was full of life and young blood. Then it got old, and so did my father. But he kept watching until the day he died. And now I watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again."
That's really, yeah, it's kind of You know what it kind of like makes me think of is that, like, I don't know, a couple of things. One is that they might have owned the house before, but then for whatever reason, they were either kicked out or, you know, like evicted, or
Maybe they couldn't make payments.
yeah, it was taken from them. And so now there's like all this hatred and anger from them, like towards that house and like the people who own it or whatever. And then the other is that, like, you know, when this person says that they used to roam the, you know, from room to room, it's kind of like maybe they had a good relationship with whoever the owners were, you know, of that house before. And then for whatever reason, you know, something happened, they no longer can be in there. And now it's just like the psycho thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, that is just so odd.
Yeah, it is very odd. And so they wanted to get a reaction out of people. So they tried something with the Langfords, and this was in cooperation with the police. The Broadduses sent a letter to them, the Langfords, announcing plans to tear down the house. And they hoped that this would piss them off enough to say something, but it ended up not doing anything. They brought Michael Langford in for another interview, but he continued to deny it. And his sister came out and was pretty mad because she thought the police were harassing her family. And it said that Michael would do weird things within the neighborhood. Like he was just kind of odd, and he was known to wander around people's like yards and stuff. And like he would look into windows if like there was construction going on or something. But people insisted he was harmless and just kind of an odd duck.
Okay.
But still, given the nature of these letters, I can see why the Broadduses would be skeptical of that, or suspicious, I should say.
Yeah.
So other suspects, they thought maybe it wouldn't be Michael because the police had questioned him after the first letter was sent and the second letter, and they thought it would be really stupid for him to send another letter. That's just their theory. They found 2 sex offenders that were living within a few blocks.
That seems unrelated.
Yeah.
The couple's house painter, they had a painter that they hired, and he noticed that there was a house that was behind 657 Boulevard, and it was a couple, and I'm laughing because you'll remember this from the show. It was a couple that kept a pair of lawn chairs.
Oh my God.
Very close to the property. And they had their lawn chairs facing the Broadduses.
Yeah.
Not their own property. They had it facing their yard.
Yep.
But I guess, to be fair, if I'm going to set up lawn chairs, I'm not going to face my own house. I'm going to face my house here and then look out into the world.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, they're at this point.
At my house and just stare at my own wall.
And I feel like, you know, it's, if you're already paranoid about something, obviously that's going to raise a lot of alarm bells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did a lot of renovations to the house. They added a new alarm system, right? But they still had reservations about moving in because they had not officially moved in yet.
And I have been questioning, they got 2 letters before they moved in at all, right? Or maybe more than 2 letters. At what point are they just going to decide this was a bad choice, let's back out and get a new house? Well,
you just hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it would have been like after the first letter if it was me.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I'm out. I'm fucking out.
Yeah, it's like, no, there's no way. It's like, whatever, but no.
The Broadduses were clearly suffering because of all this. In fact, Maria went to a scheduled doctor's appointment, and literally all the doctor said, "So how are you?" and she burst into tears.
Oh.
And she was actually sent to a therapist who said she was suffering from post-traumatic stress. Okay?
Yeah.
So, to your point, Elaine, 6 months after the letters arrived, they decided to sell the house.
Mm.
They listed it as more. They listed it as more than they had paid, right? Because they were trying to take into account all the renovations that they did on the house.
Mhm.
Sure.
But I think you know where this is going. By this time, rumors are flying, and they're not getting the bites. So
What a nightmare.
very much so, right? But they also were letting the potential buyers know about the letters, which their realtor or something, one of their agents or something said, like, stop doing this. Stop telling them about this. Like, and she said, she even told them, like, when my friend was selling her house, she got horrible letters that were threatening her because her dog was barking a lot. And she didn't even tell the new owners that. But the Broadduses were like, no.
Yeah.
The Broadduses are like, we're not going to put somebody else through this. Like, this is not right to do to somebody.
Right.
So I think
That's good of them.
yeah, that is good. And it shows the opposite of greed, you know?
Right. Right.
It is, yeah. We just recently bought a house in August, actually. And so after I watched this show, I was like, I wonder if there's anything about this house that the owners didn't tell us. There's just no way of knowing.
Yeah.
Like, what if I'm going to get creepy letters? I don't know. Like, how do I know if the previous owners are people who would disclose things like this?
What's your
I don't
address? What's your address again?
Oh. I don't really want it on the podcast.
It's 123 Avenue.
Yes.
Damn it, you made the joke before I could. I love it. So they decided, Derek and Maria, they started to get kind of irritated at the Woodses for not letting them know that they got a letter
Oh.
before they sold the house to them.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, they really didn't think anything of it. They thought it was weird, but they didn't really consider it threatening.
Yeah, theirs wasn't very threatening. I
No.
think that's
Well,
fair. They didn't need to disclose that. Probably.
Yeah. Okay. But question though, they said the Woodses said that they only received one letter,
Yeah.
but then the Watcher in one of their letters to the Broadduses was like, and they and they kindly sold when I asked them to.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons I think that that's one of the reasons that the Broadduses were like, "What the hell are they on here?"
Yeah.
And they thought, yeah, sure, even if they didn't find the letters threatening per se, the fact that they were signed by quote the Watcher, they felt was creepy enough that they should have said something. So they filed a legal complaint against them.
Oh wow.
By the way, I'll send you guys this article and I'm going to link it in my sources and all that, because what I'm going off of is a really in-depth piece by The Cut.
Mm.
They did a really great article on this, and this is even before the Netflix thing came out.
Oh.
So,
Cool.
yeah, really in-depth and really good. I think that we should do a part 2.
Okay.
Would you guys be open to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as long as like you feel like there is enough like stuff to do a part 2. I don't.
The thing is, there's a lot.
Oh.
There is a lot.
Sure.
If you guys are down.
Yeah.
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 I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. I agree.
So next time on 1 minute and 43 seconds, I'll have to record something later that sounds good. I don't know.
Okay.
Special thanks to Joanne and Elaine for their contribution on this episode, and special shout out to The Cut, who wrote an amazing article on this case, which I will be linking in my sources on 143mysteries.com. We'll be back next week with part 2 of The Watcher, also featuring Elaine and Joanne. In the meantime, check me out on Twitter @143podcast or Instagram @143mysteries. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.
No, I'm not going to the mailbox. I won't go. You can't make me. Not going to the mailbox.
Watching and writing and watching and writing. Watching and writing. Watching and writing.
No, I'm not going to the mailbox. I won't go. You can't make me. Not going to the mailbox.
Watching and writing and watching and writing. Watching and writing. Watching and writing. I just want to stay the bleep inside and, well, listen to 1 minute and 43 seconds.
1 minute and 43 seconds is dedicated to my number one fan. Thanks, Dad. I love you and I miss you. This podcast has been approved by Skipper the Cat. Right, Skippy?